Hi, everyone. So last weekend, I didn't have any Bolshoy Avenue tours on my schedule, but I did take you to an apartment of a court artist of the Romanovs. And it was, well, you're looking at the map, but actually it's a screen of my Google Maps, and you see not the pin, but the red dot. The starting point is on the street called Kamенно-Ostrovsky Avenue. It's to your right. So this is the avenue where we were, and this is that famous Art Nouveau Avenue that I had taken you several months prior to these tours. And in the end, after we explored the apartment of Ernst Liebhardt, who also happened to be the keeper and the curator of the Hermitage collection, especially the Italian art collection. Well, that tour recording is still available on my YouTube channel, by the way, and you can also access it from my website. A very interesting apartment with a lot of stories. Even though there wasn't really much furniture there, there's still a lot to talk about. And this is exactly, hi, Dorley, Shabbat Shalom. I think it's already Shavuot. I think the new week has already started here. It's already completely dark, and I think the Shabbat is just about to be over. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is the square where we were, and I'm going to show you the house that we visited. This Kamenno-Ostrovsky Avenue, I would normally say it's the Art Nouveau Avenue because I think it just speaks for itself. There are a lot of buildings in the Art Nouveau style there. And this is exactly the square, so-called the Austria Square, where a lot of this is just my old photo that I discovered. So this is the avenue that we have already walked together with you. That's the house I'm talking about. This is the on the upper floor of this gray building, which the entire building belonged to Liebhardt. So on the upper floor, just next to the tower, you see a big window, right? So this is the studio of the artist. So we visited the studio, which takes two floors, and also we explored the tower. We went to the top, we explored the tower, the two levels of the tower. So all that we did yesterday. And then last week. And then I just realized that there is so much more on this Petrograd island that I actually never really had a chance to show you. So I thought that would be actually a good idea to take you, and there's just some old buildings of the Art Nouveau Avenue, just from my camera roll. And I thought, wow, that actually would be a great idea to take you to the Bolshoy Avenue, for example, the big avenue of the Petrograd Island, because it also has a lot of Art Nouveau. And not only that, and it also happens to be actually originally a very old street from the 1730s, 1740s, almost contemporary to Peter the Great. And that's why I thought to myself, and also, oh, plus it happens to be also the area where Misha's apartment is, where he grew up. And whenever we went to the city, we would stay in the Petrograd Island. So that's why I'm taking you to my so-called stomping grounds. Just a second, there is a bigger video, don't worry. So I will start exactly from the same screenshot from the Google Maps for you to have an idea. So that's where we were, Kamenno-Ostrovsky Avenue. And well, it's 30 minutes walk. Technically, if you know how, you can actually even make it 25 minutes walk from that area to where we are now in the picture. And we're going to be walking along the street. You see Bolshoy Prospect. You can see it on the map. So at some point, we're going to find ourselves exactly at this Art Nouveau Kamenno-Ostrovsky Avenue as well. But it's quite a long avenue, as you can see. So it's definitely going to take us a little more than one tour. So the district is called Petrograd. It's also written there on the map, and it's named after an island. So actually, the entire island is pretty big, and it's called Petrogradsky Island. This happened to be the island that was the second to be developed at times of Peter the Great. The first one was where exactly Peter Paul Fortress is. You can see it also on the map. And the next island that Peter had conquered from the Swedish army and started developing would be exactly that island. At that time, it was called the City Island. For a long time, it didn't have a name at all, but then it would be called the City Island uh, because Peter had this idea to build his city actually on this island, to build like the proper city. But then another island got conquered, and then Peter thought, okay, no, actually the other island would be the main island, and kind of his plans kept changing very frequently. Anyway, so but this is one of the oldest parts of the city, in fact, but also it just happened to be, I would say, going through the big, I would say, the biggest period of change and revamping at the turn of the 20th century. We will talk about it. So this is and actually where we finished last time. We at the very beginning of the Bolshoy Avenue, there used to be just swamps, but and then kind of a park, and then in the Soviet period they decided to build a big stadium called the Yubileyny, and visit the photos from the Soviet times, like 1980ish, something like that, from the construction period. And this place is this is the inauguration 1980, I believe, or something around that. But since it's the stomping ground, it's not just well, it's not just the beautiful architecture. It's some corners, a lot of lobbies as well. That just much as I could, as much as a leg could get in, I also had to pull some strings to find, let's say, the codes, or just to find out which of the lobbies are actually good to visit. But I was meaning to start from here. Last time we did talk about the church. So one of the oldest buildings that is a survivor, so to speak, of those times would not be obviously the stadium, but a little church. This is the chapel, which is from the end of the 19th century to commemorate the death of Emperor Alexander II, who was mortally wounded by terrorists. And this chapel, I've never been inside, to be honest. I'm not even sure if it's functioning. Probably is, but I don't know. But it's looking lovely, and it's part of the bigger church, which started to be built in the 1700s, but unfortunately, they only finished in early 19th century. And yes, this area was flooded frequently because we're very close to the water. We're very close to the to the rivers. You could see it also. The Neva is just it's just like, I don't know, like 10 minutes walk maximum from where we are. So yes, I did show you this photo before. There's also a little garden um, where Grisha and I actually spent quite a lot of time together. So many of you know that we used to live in St. Petersburg, in the kind of in the suburbs, in the area called Radliv. And I even took you there for a tour because they were like beautiful places to see, an island and everything. But Misha's family and Misha's, apartment at the city was exactly on the Petrograd Island, and that's little garden next to the church was the closest where the playground was. And Grisha loved being there. We liked to buy, the pies from the bakery, and yeah, so Grisha would be just, happy running around, and that's also him. But a couple of years prior to the photo that I have just shown you, so yeah, chilling in the stroller, because this is where we would go. So I spent a lot of time in that garden with Grisha growing up, because we moved to St. Petersburg when Grisha was a little over 1 year old. So you just can't imagine how much time we spent there. And this is probably one of the least touristy areas, even though it's just contemporary to the establishment of the city. So this is the St. Vladimir Church. So as I said, they started building it in the 1700s. But unfortunately, because of the change of the rulers and emperors, and also fashions, and also every new monarch had their own. So this is the Neva River. You see how close we are to the water. Every monarch had their own vision and also had their own priorities. So yeah, this church was not a priority for Catherine the Great. It was not the priority for, actually they started building way before Catherine the Great. shortly before Elizabeth, Peter's daughter, got to the throne in 1740s. So big deal. And then also neither Paul, her son, nor Alexander the First, well, they kind of were preoccupied with many other things. So this church for a long time stood unfinished. Well, then it was finished, but it wasn't looking its best. So eventually, by mid-19th century, everything finished, and the church is looking this way now. So it is considered one of the oldest churches in the city. I'm in it. However, obviously, it doesn't look like the oldest one because it took them so long to build it. But yeah, anyway. So this church is the one of the symbols of the Petrograd side. And does it mean that, well, there are a lot of buildings contemporary to the church? Not really. That's why this church is so precious, because it's one of the very, very few buildings from the 1700s that we have in St. Petersburg on the Petrograd side. Why so? Because, well, we are by the water. We are very close to the water. It's a pretty big island. And the thing is that the first bridge to connect, well, the big permanent bridge that connected this island with other islands was only constructed at the end of the 19th century. But once that Trinity Bridge was constructed, the land prices skyrocketed. These are just the photos I think I showed you also last time. The Vladimir Cathedral at White Nights. Last weekend we did the White Nights cruise. It was a lovely tour. And because at White Nights I get especially homesick, that was also another idea for me to take you to the Bolshoy Avenue, to our stomping grounds. And also last time I asked if you wanted to see, well, some photos if I have from the bakery next to the church. So at that bakery, it doesn't look like a bakery even. I don't know, it looks like a room in somebody's summer house. So it has this beautiful piano. I'm not sure if it works, if one can play it. And I found this photo on my phone. It's one of the pastries that they sell, and I used to like it a lot. We call it kavrishka in Russian. I'm not entirely sure what the translation would be in English. It's not exactly gingerbread. It's not a gingerbread, but it's with a lot of, it's like a rich fruit cake, maybe. That's probably the closest I can come up with for now. The first two were with cocoa, and it was my favorite. Oh yeah, I should have probably had less of them than I did, but okay, no regrets. And they also have usually a couple of tables. Just so this yellow building is this kind of the store. Uh, oh, hold on a second. Let me just get rid of this idiot. Yeah, that's it. It's not going to disturb us anymore. Yeah, let me just, yeah, okay, I was quick. Just a few messages from the bot. Not even an idiot, just about. Yeah, so this yellow building is the bakery. And it's not where they actually bake it, but it's kind of a store and a little cafe, and it looks like just somebody's apartment in the summer house. And they always have some spots, in the shade. But this is the Bolshoy Avenue, so you saw it on the map, and we're going to walk it. I'm not going to be giving you sort of each and every building, just some buildings that are important, that I think are beautiful, have some story to share. That's the photo taken before the revolution. And well, to be honest, it looks pretty much the same. The same buildings at the beginning of the avenue. From your right, this is the chapel, right? You see the chapel. And you see also the building on the left. It's written in Russian, but just above the ground floor, there is a shop name. It's the Petrogradskaya Apteka, Petrograd Pharmacy. We will see this house nowadays, and there is still a pharmacy. So there has been a pharmacy even throughout, even in the Soviet period, there was a pharmacy forever. Definitely from, let's say, mid 19th century, there has been a pharmacy, and it's more into, like herbal based medicinal plants, homeopathy kind of pharmacy. That's it's still the same kind of pharmacy, by the way. It's homeopathy or whatever you call it, right? So this is the house. This is the photo. These photos. This is not my photo. Just sourced from the internet. Vanyukova house. So there will be a lot of names like this. It's just people's last name. And in many cases, they are with the feminative because many of the landlords, many of the, let's say, if we're talking about like a private person, prefer to register their like paper wise, it was more liable or easier. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, something like that. And so Vanyukova was just the wife of a merchant, Vanyukov, and they had this house built in 1898. As you can see, doesn't mean that there hadn't been anything else built before them. Yeah, connectivity not good. Thank you. It's like I can do something about it. Uh-uh. My router is it's either my router or it's simply the internet because of the rain. Just give me some. We'll see. We will restart the router once again. I know I was muted. I did it on purpose, Sharon. Thank you. So we'll see if the router could be restarted. I'm I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. It's not really a good situation, but I hope the connectivity is not that appalling. Dolly, thank you so much for your tips. Okay. Um, I'll continue. We'll see. If the connectivity resumes, it's going to be, yeah, thunderstorm can do funny things. Yeah, it's not actually, no, it is raining, but not heavily, but I guess, yeah. But thank you, Maria. So this is the pharmacy I'm talking about. And it's not only where they sell these homeopathy things, it's also where they make it. So they have the pharmacist, like it's all legit, it's all official. And I just love it that this is one of the oldest pharmacies in the city. And there is a reason why these homeopathy medicinal herbs would be sold here, because this is the same island where botanical garden, where the botanical garden was established. Uh, it was established during the times of Peter, 1700s, like 1710, 1720s. So, and in that botanical garden, there was a big section where they only grew medicinal herbs. That's already the colorized version of that postcard. I really like it. I would just like to go back to it. So the Vanyukova house is the one to the left. And you can still see the pharmacy there. And also you can see the old tram. A very similar tram we actually saw today the Russian Empire, so they had pretty much the same unified, trams all around the empire. And the building, oh, and sorry, I need to go back to the postcard. The building to the left with the green tower is still here as well. I also like this elegantly looking gentleman with a cane in a nice coat. Yeah, well, this is the house, the Teleshkin house, a beautiful one, recently restored. Well, just next to this little garden where Grisha and I used to walk. eat our chocolate rich fruit cake. We probably shouldn't have had this much, but anyway, it was mostly me. Grisha was mostly sleeping at that time. He's listening to me. He's like, I don't know what I was talking about. That's for the better. So this is the same building. It's still here, and the tower is still green. I'm pretty sure that actually I've never been inside that tower. I'm not even sure what's going on, but the house is yeah, it's still here. It survived everything. But there's nothing really special about this house apart from just being one of the, I would say, one of the symbols of the avenue and that island. And obviously, on the spot of of these houses, there had been buildings constructed in the 1700s, but they looked very different. But because this area started to develop at a frantic pace once the Trinity Bridge was constructed, we did speak about it so many times, so I'm not even going back to it. But well, you can't just expect the man to just just see the prices going up and not benefiting from it. Obviously not. So all those smaller buildings would be taken down, and something bigger, the higher, would be constructed. So this house it belonged to Segal family, and it was built by architect Meyer Rosenson, which sounds very Jewish. Both names sound very Jewish because that's exactly what it was. And obviously, we're talking about the time when, well, let's say after the turn of the 20th century, when some restrictions that had been imposed on Jews in the Russian Empire were lifted, and Jews, well, merchants of to have property. So the Segal family were merchants. The information is not complete, to be honest. In some sources, they claim that these families supplied cigarettes or well tobacco, and in other cases, they claim it was just some retail trade. I am not. Nobody knows 100%. Well, but anyway, so it belonged to Segal family, and it was built by a Jewish architect, just like that. And also, all the businesses that had ever mm, been in, had ever rented the rooms on the ground floor, because tenant house would always have ground floor for businesses and rest for apartments. But the old Segal family also were owned by Jews. For example, Boris Flax had a photo studio. So Boris Flax came from Odessa. He was a Jew, and he had actually several photo studios across the city. Why? Well, because photography was super trendy, was super popular at the turn of the 20th century. So that's why. And every house where he had his photo studio belonged to some Jewish proprietor or a Jewish entity. I don't know. Well, yeah, no, that's what it was. Yeah. So Shapovalenka House, the names, it's just the last names. They they don't have to tell you anything. There's no need, to focus on the names. But I'm giving you the names just in case. And also, I found this photo online, and I absolutely had to show it to you. So here we see this St. Petersburg backyards. You can see that. Well, so we've already seen a lot of facades, and each house has a different color, different decoration, right of the facade. The front one. The one from the back, they are all the same. You can see that they're like identical. It seems like it's one and the same house, but actually, no. Okay, some buildings have a roof of a different color, right? Like house number 4, you can see has a red roof, and then the house number 6, 8, and then 10. It's just, it looked like why they're one and the same house, but they're not. You can see how little they cared about what people saw from the windows. from the back door, honestly. And then next to it, you see the famous well-shaped courtyard. You can see it from above. Crazy, right? It's not what it seems, right? It's just you don't expect things to see like that, but yeah, there they are. So that's exactly the house that we saw. It's the house 6-8, and it still has some really nice, by the way, really freshly new looking. The also underwent a very recent restoration of the stained glass. So there was this campaign. I will just remind you for those who, well, may have forgotten. A few years ago, a group of volunteers, actually students of the Academy of Fine Arts, which we also visited several months ago, which is a rare thing. They usually open doors only once a year for exactly the days they're open. It was an initiative and a totally volunteer project to restore and clean the remnants of the stained glass in the St. Petersburg lobbies. And people donated money, usually people who lived in these houses, but also could be, anyone depending on their financial situation. They would be donating, and the students would be doing this, well, just, it's for practice and out of love, for the city. Also, I know there are some tile fans. I'm also a tile fan. This house has some nice tiles, but, well, that's just it. It's just another tenant house. Just that. It's not a palace. It's not a museum. And right next to it, there is this very unassuming, boring house. But you know what? Remember, I told you that there are not so many survivors of the 1700s. So this house technically is. The first two floors actually are from the 1700s. It's one of the oldest buildings in the on the island and actually in the city. I'm not joking. Obviously, it used to be originally just wooden, and then they also rebuilt it with bricks, and then several two more floors would be added, like just two floors, and then just or one more floor, so altogether three floors will be added. And well, it's not looking beautiful. There's nothing special about this house other than its age. So some walls, as far as I understand, are still original, still from the 1700s, but the house is, yeah, definitely underwent, some repairs and extensions. The next house is quite lovely. It belonged to Anichkov. Is it the same Anichkov that was by the Fontanka River? No, it's just this person who happens to have the same name. This house has a lot of details. This house has a lot of faces, and by the way, these type of faces you can't find on any other house, which means it was made to measure, and which means that that house was pretty expensive. But there is even a far more expensive house over here. Look at that. This house is huge and looks very different from what we have just seen. Um, Chubakov house. Chubakov was also a merchant. I don't know why he didn't register it under his wife's name, but who cares? And he built this house. A merchant investing their money, into real estate. What could be simpler than that? And this house, from the very beginning, became one of the most beautiful, became just uh, one of this, I would say, cultural hubs of the city. Oh, and by the way, as Oleg is crossing now the street, you can see on the ground floor of this building, there is it's written steamed cuisine. So this restaurant, it's called Napara, which means, uh, anyway, just kind of steamed cuisine. They had everything steamed. So it's kind of a very, very healthy food place. And they had just some amazing desserts, also steamed. I don't know how they did that. Maybe it was half steamed, maybe some parts, so some, it was like some pastries. I don't know how they did it. So everything was delicious. Took eternity to cook. That's what they often like say at every page on the menu. They would say, because everything is steamed, it takes like twice as long. So we would normally go there only when we knew we had like 1 hour, for a meal. It's not like we often went out, but we had to. So, but yeah, this is the place where you would, you knew you were eating right. You were eating clean. So this is the street where we are now. That's what it looked like. I'm going to show you once again. So, that's the street. We're going to, no, okay, let's do it like this. So we are crossing the Bolshoy Avenue, and the street to the right is called Zverinskaya Street, like an animal street. That's because we are very close to the zoo. So that's the street. And this street, the Zverinskaya Street, used to look like in the photo that we are just going to see, the black and white, which is wooden barracks and wooden buildings. Because though this is the original, well, uh, okay, let's just see the picture. That's the street. That's the street I'm talking about. It's the Zverinskaya Street, or like Animal Street, because the zoo is a little bit further down the street to the right. And so before the bridge was constructed, the Trinity Bridge was constructed, this area was mostly, even though it was just as old as the city, because there was the connection was not that convenient. There were no big bridges and everything that kind of connected this island to all the other islands. It mostly was seen as kind of the very posh suburbs, to have your country house, and rich people like to have some houses here. And also, um, not so rich people had their, wooden houses and they just lived in it. It was way cheaper than living in any other island, but still, I would say more expensive than further down. But once the bridge was constructed, things changed, and eventually each of these buildings would be taken down, and something bigger, like a big stone tenant house, would be constructed on its spot. So this photo kind of shows the transition period. In the end of the street, we see the Bolshoy Avenue, and the Zverinskaya Street, the Bolshoy Avenue, was one of the first streets to be revamped, actually. Well, not the first one, but one of the first ones. And the Zverinskaya Street was kind of still behind, was still waiting. That's why they still have pictures of some of the wooden buildings. There are a couple of wooden buildings still on the Petrograd side, but not in here. I mean, look at this house. It has been recently restored, but this house didn't really need, I would say, massive restoration because it was always really in a good shape. And I asked Oleg to go to see the lobby. So everything has been recently brushed up, and they have beautiful entrance, and they have this teeny tiny elevator. We did talk about it multiple times. So the elevators in St. Petersburg sometimes can be ridiculously small because there is no place, for a bigger elevator. That's it. So some buildings already, well, from the very beginning had an elevator, some didn't. And if there was space for an elevator, they would use it, obviously. But if there's no space, you can't really fit an elevator anywhere inside the building. So the architect of the Tubakov house was the German-born Wilhelm van der Kucht, who started his career pretty early. He was still the student of the Academy of Fine Arts when the first commission came, and he jumped on it, and the client liked it. But of course, Van der Kucht could not put his signature because at that point he didn't have the license, for art for construction works. But Shortly after that, he graduated, but and was licensed to be the architect of St. Petersburg. And he actually had built quite a lot of buildings in the so-called Northern Art Nouveau style or Northern Classicism, well, Neoclassicism or eclectic style, but kind of Northern eclectic style. Why Northern? Well, because of the colors, local stones, granite, uh, um, well, and usually the stones you can find around St. Petersburg, they all look this way. They're dark. Um, they look like a little bit, I don't know. It's not even rough, but it does look a little bit rough, maybe. I don't know. How unfortunately, Van der Gucht only had about like 10 years for his career. You see, like a dark stone. Like well, it's nothing radical. I would say gray, dark brown, dark pink because of the Ropakida stone that can be found in St. Petersburg or was found in St. Petersburg. Yeah, a little bit gloomy. I know. It's like the Northern Art Nouveau is a very gloomy Art Nouveau. We can say, well, let's say Secession, the Art Nouveau in Vienna, it's never really gloomy, right? But this is kind of the gloomy Northern Art Nouveau. Yeah. Unfortunately, Van der Gucht only had about 10 years of, active and creative work because then he was conscripted because of the First World War. And he was made to design all sorts of water fortifications, something with hydraulics. I don't know these things. And then after the revolution, he basically continued his more like engineering work other than building. And then he would be building stuff, actually, he built a lot of industrial sites. So he was in demand. And it's amazing that he actually didn't die because of the repressions, because of the Bolsheviks. He died from dystrophy in 1943 during the siege of Leningrad. And he was German. Yeah. So look at this beautiful stained glass. Very Art Nouveau, right? Very Art Nouveau. The house itself is also Art Nouveau, recently restored. The survivors, the original stained glass designs. Also restored thanks to the project. Before that, the entire window used to be like this, but obviously didn't survive the Soviet period. The tiles have survived the Soviet period. The ironwork has survived the Soviet period, and that's beautiful. There are even some doors that are still original, that are still well, from the times of Van der Gucht, like this wooden door. And usually, whenever you see an original door, like from the 19th century, it's most likely that's because it's a communal apartment. Yes. Usually people would prefer, metal doors, more like safe ones. Yeah, but the communal apartments, they usually don't change doors, don't change windows, and it's like really revealing, I would say, in general. Some photos I found online of the stoves, some interior decorations. Yeah, I like this stove. This is the photo I found just on one of the databases about St. Petersburg houses. So I have no idea what's really going on in there. And yeah, so uh, and that's it. So we're done with this lobby, original metal tile on the floor. Good idea. A big house, an expensive house, one of the symbols as well of that side of the city, of the island. And I mean, also have a look. This was so I don't exactly remember when this video was taken. It was definitely a weekend because during weekdays Oleg was busy, so he couldn't do it. And I'm not entirely sure what time of the day it is, but it's probably around 5 p.m., maybe 6, maybe 4 p.m. I'm not sure. And see how, well, few cars, very few people. That's because I don't know, Petrogradka for some reason, even during the rush hour, it's less crowded than the rest of the city. I don't know how. I don't know why, but it's a much quieter nook of the city than any other. Also, one of the big names associated with this island is Pavel Mulhanov. Pavel Mulhanov was an architect as well that specialized in mostly eclectic and Art Nouveau architecture, and he became the unofficially he became the architect of the Petrograd side of the Petrograd island, and that's his work. Usually, people outside of Petrograd side don't really know Mulhanov, but honestly, just like on Bolshoy Avenue itself, there are like 7 buildings constructed by him. We're going to see several more that were constructed by Mulhanov. So big deal. And well, this one, for example, if we continue working straight ahead, we will see the fire station, which well, not really much to talk about. This yellow building was also part of the fire station as well. And originally, the fire station had been established from the very beginning, but it was just wooden building, and then the building installed will be constructed. But you can see this is very old architecture. That's like 1700s, maybe early 1800s, but not later. Another building at the corner constructed by Pavel Mulhanov. Exactly. You see, just I don't know how it works, but he was in demand. This house belonged to Kolobov family. So Kolobovs were merchants. They actually were two brothers. They were filthy rich, and also were some claim some claim that they were old believers, but it was only rumors because, in fact, had they been old believers, there was this big clash at some point took place in Russia, the clash during the church reforms. And a group of people was not happy, a big group of people was not happy with the changes that the church introduced in the 19th century. So eventually, those who were vocal about, being not happy with the changes, eventually they kind of, protested and split from the main church, and they were kind of called old believers because the reform was kind of the renewal of some, religious practices in the church, in the Orthodox Church. But anyway, it's only rumors because, in fact, the Kolobov was the kind of in charge of the one of the parish, not as a priest, but he was like uh, kind of a mentor of the parish. Let's put it this way. So Kolobov. This is one of the two brothers. The house is very big. It's very, like you see, it's the triangular shape. But actually, they owned the two other buildings as well till the next block. So we can say they're all Kolobov's house, but officially it's only this one that was called Kolobov. The rest have different names, but they originally owned the land as well. I like this house. I just like this perspective. So the Bolshoy Avenue, I don't know, it just has this regularity. The streets are just going exactly, straight and across. It's, I don't know. And I also like the lights. And you can see how not many cars there are. There are not so many people. That's clearly amidst the tourist season. It's clearly, well, it's probably a weekend. Yeah, I can imagine, but nevertheless. So this is the charm of Petrograd. I don't know how it works because there are a lot of people living here, but it just happens so that they kind of, I don't know, they don't go out, or I, I don't know. Anyway, so I wanted to see another lobby in this house because I know they have some really good exhibits, some really, really good tiles, Metlach tiles. This one is really special because it's look like um, mosaic. Oh, sorry, it's not Matlock. It's it's German, but not Matlock. Sorry, I was wrong. And it has plaster. I am quite suspicious. I would say quite skeptical. I don't think that the walls were originally blue, but I'm okay because I think it looks beautiful, clean. I like the combination, the coordination of the colors, the kind of vanilla, beige, and kind of a sweet, gentle pink color. But we'll see. And some more tiles at the entrances. So I asked Oleg to show the tiles as close as possible. So this was Dolgopolov manufacturer of tiles, and Dolgopolov produced tiles for all of the houses that belong to Kolobovs, and Kolobovs had a lot of property. They were very rich. They were one of the richest families in in the city. Uh, it had a lot of children as well. So Dolgopolov it was the supplier of the tiles, would provide tiles for every property that the Kolobov had, and the tiles are still in a very good condition. Very good. That's another building that's also built on the land that belonged to Kolobov, and you see more steps. You see mm, more tiles, and I'm speeding things up because I think we just have time for one more house before we have time for just one more house. Well, once again, we're looking at the Kolobov's property. So this is the end of the block. This is also it. Just the entire block belonged to Kolobov's. Big deal. Uh, Also built by Pavel Mulhanov, and you can see how Mulhanov, the architect, kind of combined such different, you know, features of different architectural styles together. So you can see kind of some neoclassicism built into kind of a little eclectic, maybe a little bit, second rococo-ish. I don't know. Yeah, well, eclectic. I think eclectic is the word. Oh, sorry. I think I should. Yeah, okay, that's good. I was thinking that this house, the Borodin house, beautiful, big, recently restored, also just somebody's property. Well, I mean, it used to be somebody's property. After the revolution, it was all nationalized, obviously. And well, the the upper floor here seems added. I actually didn't check it, but I assume that that was the case. So the upper floor was added. Um, I think the upper floor was added like in the maybe 20th century. I didn't check that, but the rest is, yeah, it is the house. Uh, this is also one of the, I would say, mm, beautiful, expensive pieces of real estate. This street used to have this tram line. You see the tram, right? And this is like the corner the of the Bolshoy Avenue and the the old Gribnaya Street. It's not really relevant. What is relevant that there used to be a tram going just past this house, and it would go along the entire Bolshoy Avenue. Also, on one of the websites and in one of the Facebook groups related to Saint Petersburg and like Petrograd Side, the community, each island is like a community in itself. And there is a group on Facebook. So the people who live on the Petrograd side kind of, and they're like 40, 100 people or something like that, maybe even more now. I'm not sure. So they would be sharing stories of their houses, and one family discovered a postcard addressed to them addressed to someone who had been living in their apartment in this house, and they just shared it. I cannot read it. It's not also, I think it's a little bit too blurry, but you can see here it's addressed to Russia, and that's just it. I don't know. So, but it's just, well, interesting thing to see. I just found it and looked by the address, and it just popped up in my feed. Yeah. So I think that's it for now. Next time, I'm going to be taking you to some Art Nouveau chefs. I'm going to take you to a cafe that I like to go. I used to go quite often, but I probably shouldn't have been there that many times, but it doesn't matter. So as I said, this is a very untouristy area. This is very, I would say, personal because Misha has walked the street so many times. I have been there so many times, and this felt like, I don't know. It's like, on the one hand, it's because it's not really a palace after a palace, but it's just a residential building. It doesn't feel that special. It's not like you're walking on the Nevsky Avenue, for example, or some avenues around it, right? But it's kind of a little bit further. There are no really tourist, groups. You can never see a tourist bus even there because usually, travel buses, like big coaches, would normally go around and actually go the opposite side of the city to go to the countryside residences. So this area always felt so good to be in, especially after a long day. After like I spent like 8 hours, 10 hours with tourists, it would be so good to just walk down the Bolshoy Avenue and just kind of unwind. Yeah, that was really nice, you know. And I don't know, I should have taken you there on a live walk. We would have, popped up, just dropped by to some of those places. But anyway, so this is it for now. The second episode is already scheduled for the next, no, in 2 weeks from now. The reason being very simple because I'm planning a very short, like, day trip for the next weekend, but I will be keeping you posted, and I'm hoping to do a live stream, um, you know, um, from the place. So that's why I'm going, but I will be keeping you posted. I can't promise for now. I'm sharing the links, so in case you missed the previous two tours, the recordings are available already. Also, there's going to be one more tour in 1 hour from now. We are visiting the apartment of Vladimir Nabokov. And tomorrow, three tours earlier than usual because I have another, like, private virtual tour scheduled late in the evening. I couldn't say no. And the next episode for the Bolshoy Avenue is on the 4th of July. I know it's going to be, probably busy, and some of you might not be able to join, but that's just what I have for now. Thank you so much for joining. To all those who joined also after we started, I didn't have a chance even just to, say hi. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This is like very different. It has a different vibe, but still a beautiful avenue, right? But no tourists, no opulent palaces. Still, every building, or like nearly every building, is an artwork in itself. Well, at least to me, well, because it's my stomping ground. This week is the year's longest Shabbat. Shabbat goes out at 11:47 tonight. Well, where you are, yeah, I can imagine. It's also because it's midsummer, but here it's already. I think we're already through. Thank you, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. In Saint Petersburg, it would have been. It's still the same. It's also the longest Shabbat in Saint Petersburg because of that as white night. So yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you so much for your interest in my tours. I'm so sorry for the connectivity due to the rain, which, by the way, got stronger again. I guess my router is just like, no, I don't want to be working. Maybe it's just actually a bigger issue with the internet provider, which also happens, unfortunately. So we're having a really big thunderstorm now again. Thank you for joining. If you missed the two live streams, they were fun. So I hope you will enjoy watching them. It will be World Virtual Tours, Dolly. Yes, it will be recorded, but there's no guarantee that the recording will be provided. We have been having some issues, and some tour recordings were not provided, unfortunately. I don't even know for what reason. And well, virtual tours are now on vacation, so I don't know, they probably sort it out once they are back. So we'll see. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I would appreciate your support. You can send me a PayPal donation. You could buy me a coffee. And thanks for that. Thank you for everything. I will see you in 1 hour from now. Well, to see the Nabokov's apartment. Bye bye.